This is Trevor Sternad from the Black Dahlia Murder here, and you're listening to the Everblack Podcast.
Hey, humans, Carl, this is Odorous from Guam.
I'm going to the Fear Factory.
This is George Corsh Under Fisher.
This is Gas from Double Drop.
This is Wade from Our Last Enemy.
Magnificent Suicide Tendencies.
Hey, this is Wednesday 13.
This is
Rex from Kill Devil Hill.
This is Gary Lee from Sepultura. You're listening to Everblack Podcast.
Before we go into this episode of the Everblack Podcast, we just need to give a shout out to our show supporters, the occult clothing brand Electric Witch, who have amazing apparel from shirts to hoodies to hats to beanies, dresses and more. Check out their full range at electricwitch.com.au and put in the code Everblack for 20% off your order. Also, don't forget to subscribe, rate and review the Everblack Podcast on Spotify and iTunes podcast streams, and see all our video interviews on the Everblack YouTube channel. You can also read all our articles and reviews at everblack.com.au. All right, on with the show. All right, David, good to see you, mate. Finally, I mean, we've spoken on the phone a few times, but it's actually good to see you in your look at that in the background. That is amazing. Look at your little cool little office there.
Yes, you can see as well now that I'm a real human being. It's good to see you, as always.
Thanks, brother. Thanks. Well, yeah. I mean, of course, it's been a little while, but how's the rest of 2020 been for you, man? Like, been well?
Well, yeah. So this year has been a different year for pretty much everyone, and for many, it's been a difficult year. So, yeah, because of that, that's probably led to what we're going to be talking about today, because I've been lucky enough and fortunate enough to stay in a position of continuing Her Name Is Murder Productions, which I'm very thankful for. And but with that meant kind of doing things slightly differently as well. And of course, a lot of projects got put on the back burner. A lot of releases that were ready to come out to the world have now, been put on hold indefinitely, because everyone's just really trying to figure out what to do from here. And I am really used to spending quite a lot of my time on the road, in the studio, on set with bands, and predominantly, telling stories. And this year hasn't really involved a lot of that. And, it's something obviously I was aware of, but I've never had to think of it because I've been lucky enough to continue working throughout the years. And I really noticed I was missing something in my life this year. And that was just sharing stories, sharing my thoughts and my feelings, because Her Name Is Murder Productions, I'm lucky to have that as my vessel to express myself. This is my first video podcast, for example. I'm usually the guy behind the camera, and that's how I talk. And that's kind of what led to what we're talking about today, man, the Life Is Peachy podcast. I really needed outlet to continue sharing stories and expressing myself.
Well, of course, I'm very excited about this podcast, man. I'm very, very excited, considering, I mean, you're going to be deep diving into albums that are significant to you. How did that come about? Like, where did this concept come from? Getting behind the mic. Yeah,
well, that took a lot of that. It was like months of thinking about, could I actually even do this? Because it's very out of my field of expertise, for example. And like I said, I'm very much used to being behind the camera and sharing my stories that way. And as Her Name Is Murder Productions kind of evolved over the years, I really loved the fact that I could start working with bands that I grew up with, and honestly, bands that I still love to this day, bands that really shaped my obsession and connection with music. And, these were the bands that, the posters were on my walls. I had the CDs, I had the cassettes in my Walkman. And I was lucky enough to be in the position to get to work with a lot of these bands and make documentaries and tell stories. And these albums have stayed with me my whole life. These bands have stayed with me my whole life. And when I was thinking about what I could do in terms of a podcast, I thought it made sense, I guess, just to continue that ethos, man. And yeah, these are albums that are important to me. And furthermore than that, with the podcast, I really wanted to try and get into the headspace of what it was like for the bands at that point in time when those albums came out, the music culture even. Of course, it's from my point of view as well, but we're all connected to music and we all have our own stories with music. So I'm just hoping as well that at the very least, people will enjoy hearing a bit about these albums and maybe take a trip down memory lane, revisiting them, revisiting life as well, throughout the 90s and the early 2000s. And also reintroducing maybe some of these albums that might have been forgotten in the back catalogue of these bands because for whatever reason, time's passed and they've been overlooked or forgotten. Yeah, man, I just love talking about music. I love talking about cinema. So once I kind of got the confidence to commit to this concept, then I guess it was all systems go from there. But it's been like a long process behind the scenes, I suppose. Mainly the confidence thing, just going, can I do this? Can I do this? Okay, I think I can. Now, how do I do this? So, yeah, it's a different world.
Man, I think it's going to be awesome. I'm very, very excited, especially with the first episode. You have one of my favorite frontmen, Derek Green, Sepultura, yes. And you're going to be talking about Against. Man, yep. What an incredible episode to kick off with.
Yeah, thank you. I thought so too. Wanted to come out swinging.
Yeah, man.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, anyone that knows me and even knows the business, like Sepultura, were there from the beginning. Once I started really discovering music on my own terms, for a lot of people, of course, as well, it was bands like Metallica. So that was the same for me. Metallica, Pantera, Sepultura. And that led into, then like Korn and Deftones, the whole new metal thing. And then from there, a good song is a good song. But it was really thanks to bands like Sepultura where I first found my independence discovering music. And that's like a very big thing in life when you really feel that you've discovered something for yourself. And, I was really understanding that music felt like a friend and it got me in ways that no one else got me, or lyrics or emotions in a song resonated with me and made sense of so many things that I couldn't express myself. And I've been lucky enough to work with Sepultura and become friends with Derek over the years. And it just made sense to have him as the first guest on the episode, because all the episodes will feature a guest from the album that I'm talking about. And I got into Sepultura around the time Roots came out, but the first time I brought something from Sepultura in real time was the album Against. So that album for me has a very special place in my heart. And for so long, I've felt it's such an underrated album. And it's really cool because 20 years later, the band are really talking about it a lot more. It's making a lot more sense to fans that didn't really get it because it came out at such a critical time in the band's career. The first album with a lot of people didn't know what the hell to make of it, whether they were even a fan of the band anymore. And a lot of that dust is settled, and it's such an exciting time to finally be able to talk about this album and go back in time. So I was, honored that he could join me for that and, be part of what I'm calling the pilot episode, because it's a bit longer than the other ones, but there's a lot to set up. I'm kind of making these podcasts. Like I mentioned, I'm not really doing the documentary stuff because I'm not really, there's no tours happening. There's not work happening. So essentially I've kind of taken my formula of documentary filmmaking and I've turned that into a podcast. So I'm curious to see what people are going to think, because in some ways it's a bit unique. And I don't know. I suppose I'm a bit quirky. Maybe. I don't know. I'm nervous about it. Let's just say that. But I'm kind of trying to put my personality into it as much as possible. And I'm interested to see how the ride goes. Yeah.
It'll be awesome, man. Have you recorded more?
Yes. So I've got a bit of a back catalogue up my sleeve. Yeah. And I'm really am excited. If people are enjoying the first episode when that comes out on the 29th of November, then I hope they stick around for the journey, because I'm trying to also create a bit of a universe with this. And it's a mixture of storytelling with conventional Q&A. So there's a lot going on in them, but also I want them to be kind of as light and fun as possible. And we'll see what happens. But also, man, I have to say thank you, because this whole thing, I didn't know it at the time, but it really did start because of you, because you were my very first podcast.
Ah,
I remember thinking how much fun it was, but also what a great medium it was to be able to express so much more. So in this year where, I've been having to find other ways to do it, and I've landed on, creating this podcast, it all goes back to you, man. So,
mate. Thank you, my friend.
I mean it.
I appreciate that. But I just enjoy talking, especially when we're talking all nerdy stuff.
Yeah.
Well, all the Transformers stuff, but hopefully.
Like the moment in the podcast when we did the first one where we're both like, wait, did we just become best friends? The Transformers connection. For sure.
I'll have to show you Randy.
Yes.
But of course, without spoiling anything, can you throw us some hints of some other guests you got coming up?
Well, I can't name drop yet. Okay. I would love to, but definitely you're the first person. I've mentioned the Derek Green thing too. That's very exciting. What I can say is that most of these albums their releases from the mid to late 90s to the early 2000s, because I was in high school. I was going from primary school to high school then. And it was just such a formative time in my life. That was the time where, music was quintessential to my identity. And also, the 90s and early 2000s, it's all relative to everyone, of course. But for me, the music releases then were so exciting. They were so colorful. They were so emotional. There were also a lot of fun releases also. So, yeah, maybe if people are wanting to take guesses, a lot of the artists do feature in the Her Name Is Murder back catalog, because I mentioned, I have to work with so many of these bands that, I grew up with loving. So when I was thinking of the albums and the guests, that was my main reference point to at least begin this journey with, because I've been lucky enough to work with a lot of these bands and do documentaries on these bands or these albums before. And so there's a lot of maybe hints and clues in the back catalogue of Her Name Is Murder.
Oh, I'm going to have to go digging through. It's pretty exciting. No, it is. It's really exciting. Of course, as you mentioned before, the albums can feel like a friend, and I 100% back that up. Is there one album in particular that you feel that is closest to you, that has gotten you through the hard times?
Oh, that's a good question. So a lot of the albums I'll be speaking about in the podcast predominantly do fall under what I call the heavy music umbrella. Yeah. I usually get asked the question as well, what music do you listen to? And it's hard to explain, because when you say heavy music, people will straight away go, oh, heavy metal. And that's not my forte. That's not my thing. But then it's really hard to explain, the genre or the style of music you enjoy from the heavy metal world. So I just call it kind of heavy music. But for me, actually, one of the main albums that has a profound impact on me is The Cranberries, No Need to Argue.
Oh, amazing album.
Yeah, it really is. There's so much rich beauty and heartache in that album.
Yes.
I guess that's been not my life in terms of my life's been heartache and beauty, but I love that juxtaposition in my work, the light and the color, and the heartbreak and the celebration of life as well. I've always been about those two sides of the spectrum, and combining those and whatever's in the middle is generally kind of what I release, I suppose, or what I try to express. And that album for me is the epitome of the most beautifully sad, beautifully depressing album, I guess. It's so beautiful and it's so gut-wrenching. And depending on the mood I'm in, it's either going to make me feel like life is the best or I'm a blubbering, crying mess. And I love that about that album. It's so powerful in so many different ways emotionally. And for me, I really value emotion in art, and that's how I connect to it, and that's why I can express myself through art. Because I got to be able to connect to it emotionally. It's got to move me, or it's got to make me realize a part of me that I didn't realize was there, and then suddenly something about me makes more sense. And
100%.
people are often surprised that I love heavy music, but I think it just really makes sense of a lot of things, because generally I'm pretty quiet and soft-spoken and hold back in the crowd. Of course, if I'm comfortable, like you're great at bringing out the words and the conversation in me, which is why you're fantastic at what you do. But generally, I don't do this. And that's why the podcast has been a massive project for me in a good way, because I wanted to also do it to work on myself, to back myself, to put myself out there and stand up for my thoughts and feelings, even if it's just to do with music and cinema. Like I'm guilty of often second guessing myself and thinking that I'm not really worth that opinion. And this might seem like a small thing in terms of just doing a podcast about music and cinema and my life in many ways, but it's a big step for me. And it's something I've been wanting to work on for a long time. Just, believing in myself more and putting myself out there. It's easy to hide behind a camera, and now I'm kind of putting myself out there. And I guess that's why I said I was nervous, but I'm nervous in a good way. Like, I feel good about it.
Awesome, man. You should feel good about it. You're a great talker, and mate, if you really want to know, that's why I started doing it. Is because I wanted to, build up that confidence to be able to talk to people just on a day-to-day basis. I still get nervous talking to people. You should see me sometimes for interviews, but man, I think you're going to be amazing at it, and you're going to get addicted to it, and you're going to, mate, I have all the confidence in the world for you, brother. Like, I think you're going to do amazing. I can't wait. I'm very, very excited to hear what's coming up.
Cool, man. That means a lot coming from you. I'm a massive fan of what you do, and thank you so much for that.
Oh man, no, I'm just hearing a lot of myself in that conversation. So
cool.
Yeah, man. Hey, this is what it's all about, man. Just a couple of dudes hanging out. Well, usually I'm having a beer, but I'm having a water tonight. I'm all
I mean, the nerves off as well, having a glass of red, but it is only midday here, so
it looks so nice and calm, and like you could just have a nap out there in the background. It looks
Today's quite good because we're into winter, or we're coming into winter, now in the Netherlands, and it's nice because I try to create a calming space to chill in, but also to work in as well. That aspect of your headspace, your mental health is super important. Yes. And that's also something that, I'm not forcing to talk about on the podcast, but I am very much interested in the person behind the music and their story and their journey as well, because we all have something to say, and we all go through things, and we all have our battles and our ups and downs, and communication is super important, and it's important to keep that going, and at the very least let people know that it's okay to talk about this stuff and to feel comfortable, and hopefully that we all feel and know that we have someone that we can communicate with. So at the crux of it as well, communication is key. And I wanted to do this podcast as well for my sanity, man. I didn't realize it was so important to me until this year happened. And I was like, I really need to get stuff out. And I love, talking about the things I love talking about. And I was lucky enough to find a way to continue doing that somehow.
Mate, I can't wait to a few episodes deep to see where you're at personally and how you feel about it all.
I'm excited about that also.
You know what I mean? Because it is life changing. It definitely is, man. Like the personal growth and things and everything you're saying. I think it's really, I'm so excited for you, bro. Like
dude,
it'll opening those doors, and you're just gonna be like, wow, crushing it, killing it.
Yeah, cool, man. And well, for anyone that's interested in yourself, of course, as well, I just launched the Instagram, which is right now the the only place to go to for the information until the podcasts are live. They'll be on Spotify and iTunes and the usual places. But at the moment, everyone can go to the Instagram, which is at Life Is Peachy Podcast. And that's going to be just like the central main place where I do the posts, I do any info. And like I said, yeah, the first one comes out the 29th of November. And if they go to the Instagram also on that day, then the links to the podcast will be live and available from the Instagram.
Excellent.
So go like it, follow me.
Oh, man, I'm so excited. One thing I do want to ask you though is, what about movies and stuff like that? Is that going to play into this as well? Is it just going to be music?
Yeah, so predominantly the basis of the podcast is talking about one album per episode, and each episode features a person associated with that album also joining the discussion. And yeah, most likely that will always be a person from the band. The cinema aspect of it comes mainly in the storytelling aspects throughout the podcast, because obviously my life began with the passion of wanting to be an action movie director when I was a kid. And I wanted to make action movies. That was it. And then, over the years, over many years, that transitioned into Her Name Is Murder Productions and doing music videos. And then the music video thing turned into also doing documentaries. And now here we are today. So cinema's always been a big part of my life. But I believe throughout the podcast, I don't think I'll be talking about movies per se in terms of like reviewing or talking about iconic movies from my life, but I talk a lot about cinema and its impact, and I suppose a lot of references throughout my childhood to cinema. The storytelling aspect of each episode is always going to be based around that particular album, generally from the moment in time that album fell into my lap. And I'll then give, context of my life leading up to that moment it happens, and, kind of where I'm at now with that album also. So yeah, I don't know. I like to try and think of the podcast as documentaries where I have my introduction, then the guest comes on, we have some Q&A, then some storytelling, Q&A, storytelling, and then it kind of wraps up nice and neatly at the end. But if all the podcasts would be played, back to back, my aim is that it's almost like a series, like a television series or a documentary series. Like
a season? Were you doing it in seasons in a way?
Yeah, there is some. Yeah, I guess like I have my plan of attack where the order of the podcast is for a reason, and then if I'm thinking of seasons, then there may be also a season where it's Australian artists only. And things like that also. So, but yeah, at the very least, everything kind of has an order for a reason, and everything will be linked. And I'm very much a fan of rewarding people for listening and giving their time as well. So there's like a lot of kickbacks to other episodes and continual use of humor and sound and things like that. I don't know, like I say, trying to create this universe. I'm a big fan of that in comedy series and things like that, where because you spend your time and your energy watching something all the time, you're continually rewarded to kickbacks and to Easter eggs and things like that. And as a viewer, that makes you feel that your time's been worth it and you've been acknowledged for that. I'm a massive fan of things like that. So yeah. I don't know. I'm just trying to kind of put in all the things that I enjoy, but also at the same time, I'm not from the world of podcasts, and that will either be a good thing or a bad thing, because I'm not really comparing what I'm doing to anyone else. I'm just doing what I feel like I kind of want to do, and we'll see what happens. Yeah,
it'll be great, man. It'll be great. Man, I can't wait to crank this thing on Friday. Is it going to be Friday here in Australia? I don't know how the time differences work.
So the Sunday the 29th, it's November the 29th is a Sunday.
Oh, okay. Sunday. Okay. Yes.
That's like the official first episode with Derek Green. And then from there, the plan is that there will be an episode released every second and fourth Sunday of the month. So we're looking at 2 episodes a month. And that's the plan. And I'll do my best to stick to that. The plan is to release it here Sunday like in Europe. And at the very worst case scenario, that means that it will be out Monday morning in Australia for when people are commuting to work and stuff like that.
Perfect.
Hopefully it's either going to be like Sunday chills or Monday morning commuting.
Prep for the week. It'll be my prep for the week. And then
get the week off to a good start.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, brother. And of course, it's been awesome to hang with you, man. Hopefully the next time we catch up, it'll be
in the same country, maybe.
Yeah, dude. We keep saying it because we still got to do that Transformers movie watch
time.
Me too. I do. I actually, every time I see it, I'm like, mate, I'm gonna get David over and we're gonna cry.
It'll happen. It will happen. Yeah, like I was supposed to come to Australia this year because I normally do once a year, and of course, just didn't work out this year for obvious reasons. But fingers crossed next year. So, yeah.
Mate, thank you so much for hanging, bro. I can't wait to hear it, and of course, we'll have all the links down here. Yes. You can pre-save it now. Is that right? Can you pre-save it?
Can you pre-save it? Oh, good question. I don't know about that.
We'll share all the links. I usually just say the links are down here anyway, but
yes. You'll have all the links. I know.
we'll get it all out there anyway.
Showed the world how much a noob I am at all of this.
Brother, thank you again, and all the best with the podcast. I can't wait, bro.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Big love, man.